Welcome to Issues and Answers with Diane Kinderwater. Issues and Answers is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. And now, Issues and Answers with your host, Diane Kinderwater.
Welcome to the program. I'm Diane Kinderwater. We have a potpourri of topics to talk to you about on the show today. Everything from automatic voter registration. What the heck is that? Well, it's something that's happening at MVD. And if you haven't registered to vote, well, you're automatically going to be voting, or at least registered to vote. All the way from that to our film industry. What is going on? Are they selling a studio in Santa Fe? Have you heard about that? And are we still producing films in New Mexico? We've had a big subsidies for years. What's going on with that industry since COVID and since there was the strike? I think it was the Writers Guild who had a strike. And how is that situation going? And that big, beautiful bill that you've probably heard about from the Trump administration. I don't know if he came up with that term. Just on the spur of the moment, I heard what he said. Well, let's call it the big, beautiful bill. Okay, simple language. But how is that going to impact our medical providers here in the state of New Mexico? Are you going to be able to see your doctor? Or will we have doctors fleeing the state or maybe returning? We're going to talk to Paul Gessing, the president of the Rio Grande Foundation, a think tank that wants to give us prosperity, freedom, economic freedom, and of course, the choice that we have over our lives. That's the idea behind this think tank. Let's find out what he thinks about all these different topics because these are his topics. We'll be back with Paul Gessing right after this. Stay with us. Okay, it's just a half-hour show, and we're going to get raring to go because we've got a lot of topics. A lot of these came from another show I did with Paul Gessing regarding the mayoral race. That's in November, and what that means to all of us. But we didn't have to touch about all of these things, including our economic freedom declining in the state of New Mexico. Our economic freedom declining.
Yeah.
Paul Gessing, what are you talking about?
So we did a full in-depth report on this issue of economic freedom. And if you really wanted to distill everything that the Rio Grande Foundation does and stands for down to a very basic concept, it is economic freedom. What does that mean? It means that you or we, the people of the state of New Mexico, of the United States, of foreign countries, etc., we get to determine more of the decisions of to where our money goes, and the government does less of that. And
well, money, when you say our money goes, our tax money or the money I earn, what money are we talking about?
You control the money, your money, and that means lower taxes. That means less government spending. That means fewer regulations imposed at the government level as to where and what you can spend your money on. And those are the three major variables of this report. So I'll get to explain that in just a second, but we worked with an organization called the Fraser Institute. They're a Canadian free market think tank. They're in many ways similar to us, but working in Canada. They've done a report for years in which they not only look at, one of their reports is internationally. Every country on the planet that has the information, they compare and contrast them on economic freedom issues. The United States tends to be around top 10. Other places like Hong Kong and maybe Singapore, those tend to be very economically free. United States is slightly more free than Canada. There's European countries that go back and forth with the United States as well. But United States, one of the things that made us great is definitely economic freedom. Then you get to states and provinces, and these reports, the Fraser Institute actually ranks Canadian provinces, U.S. states, and Mexican states, believe it or not. Now, the report that we look at every year, and it's gone back to 1981, is just U.S. states. New Mexico's not dead last. California, New York tend to be at the very bottom. The kicker, though, is that New Mexico has lost economic freedom since 1981. Economic freedom
in
the area of taxes, spending, and government regulation. Now, taxes and spending are very related, especially in most states where you have to tax your citizens in order to spend your money. There's no magical printing press like they have in Washington, D.C. at the Federal Reserve, where they can just keep printing up money and it winds up in an inflationary situation. States don't have that option, except New Mexico does. How do we get spending without taxes? Well, the report looks at taxes that are borne by New Mexicans directly. That does not include oil and gas. Oil and gas is such a huge presence in New Mexico, the second biggest producer of oil, and the amount of money that we've seen flow into New Mexico, billions and billions of dollars year in and year out, especially over the last nearly decade, has given New Mexico a outsized growth in government because they have money to spend and they don't have the accountability of, you got to raise taxes on the people. And that's one of the challenges of the oil and gas industry.
Repeat that again. That's a good point. That not
you can spend more money
without getting your taxpayers upset or mad.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, that's my basic term. They can spend all this money, but it's really kind of not my money.
Right.
So if they were increasing my taxes, they'd be hearing from. Well, they are hearing from me. But
now, I would recommend, because New Mexico has so many social and economic issues, we have such high poverty, we have such government dependency, we have an education system that's ranked dead last. I would advocate for providing benefits to empower people in New Mexico to have lower taxes, reform the gross receipts tax to make it more like a sales tax, eliminate the personal income tax. And there was a bill introduced this last legislative session here in 2025 to do just that, but it got precisely nowhere. Instead, what has happened with the state of New Mexico is that they don't even have the capacity to spend all the money. So what they do is they put it into these permanent funds and sovereign wealth funds. A sovereign wealth fund is an investment
and
account.
partly why they can't spend the money is they want to spend it. They can't because there aren't construction crews or there aren't enough people to receive the money they want to spend. There's not enough services to be doing all these things.
Yeah, to an extent, and I call into question their ability to spend it on things that actually matter, because our infrastructure ranking as a state has actually plummeted. In other reports, we need I-40 to be expanded to 3 lanes each way for safety and to keep the bridges in working order and replace many of them.
Okay, I got you off track.
Et cetera, et cetera. But
but regarding this study that we're doing worse,
we're the only state in the country to have seen a drop in economic freedom since 1981. Every other state in the United States has seen an improvement. And economic freedom is not just some abstract concept. It's associated with a better environment, more equality for men and women. It's associated with faster economic growth, faster population growth. I recently saw another report that said that of the top 10 states that are seeing an influx of young people, we're a second most outflow of young people. The top 10 that see 18 and under that are moving to those states, or they're seeing more of them there, 4 of those 10 have no personal income tax. And it seems like a head scratcher. Why would young people who probably don't make that much money, I mean, if you're 18 and that's the oldest, it's mostly 17, 16, 15 and younger, you're not making a big pile of cash. You're not paying that income tax, but your parents are, your families are, your businesses are. And so people are moving to states that have more economic freedom. And it just makes sense because it's something that's happened in the United States since the beginning of its history. Yes, a lot of people moved here for religious freedom to the United States, but a lot of those people were also looking to be the captain of their own ship, to make a name for themselves in business and other things, and that's happened time and time again through American history.
What's interesting, Paul, that the Rio Grande Foundation did this research and again presenting it to us so we know about it, and of course is online.
Yep.
But it shows that the United States, compared to other countries, is one of the best, one of the top 10 with economic freedom. And why we became such a great, strong country is because of that economic freedom.
Yeah.
But then when you look at the states, we're one of the worst and we're declining. So what does that mean, how we're going to rank with the other states in the future?
Well, first it means that one of the things the founding fathers did in setting up the United States was genius, because they set up 50 states to compete against each other on these policies. So, you mess up, you do things that are anti-economic freedom, your economy's slow, your population growth slows, and you become less and less of an impact. I mean, yeah, you're going to have 2 U.S. senators, but you're only going to have potentially 1 or 2 congressmen. New Mexico has 3 currently, but if we keep it up, we're probably going to lose one of those additional members of Congress in the not too distant future, because our population overall is slowing in its growth, and then we're losing our young people, which is further going to exacerbate the situation.
Things can get worse. So, I mean, we're thinking things are bad now. We're thinking things are bad now, Paul, but you're saying this trajectory is going down.
We're on the wrong path, there's no question. And that path has ebbed and flowed over the years. New Mexico's always been what I would call a purplish state politically. We have Gary Johnson, but we had a Democrat-dominated legislature, and that's where the policies are made. And for many decades, we've had a Democrat-dominated legislature. We had Bill Richardson, who was pretty pro-business, wanted to see economic growth. Susana Martinez was in a tough period during the economic crisis of 2008, and not the oil boom that we have now. Michelle Lujan Grisham has had a Democrat legislature that's on her side, and then she's not use that oil and gas boom to benefit New Mexico in any substantive way. So yeah, we need to change direction, and we'll have an election in 2026 in the fall to determine if we're going to continue to do more of the same, or if we're going to decide, hey, New Mexico has all the potential in the world. We've got the oil and gas revenue, we've got the beautiful blue skies, we've got the low humidity. We're in the area of the country where people are moving to in droves, whether it's Arizona, Colorado, Texas, Utah. Everybody wants to be in the American Southwest, and they're just not coming to New Mexico because our economic policies are not ready for prime time. We could be doing so much more, we're not.
And it's hurting. It's hurting.
It's hurting, yeah.
It's hurting
our young people are leaving.
Our young people, and when they leave, what do we become, a dust bowl? I mean, a ghost town? A ghost state town?
We could very easily have that situation.
Especially since we're going down.
Right.
And everybody else is going up.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
We need to change direction.
What else? Where can people find more information on this on your website?
Well, it's a report that you can find, Fraser, F-R-A-S-E-R. Just look up economic freedom in New Mexico.
But it's on your web.
You have your RioGrandeFoundation.org, areasofenchantment.com.
Wow.
We've not only got the paper, the slideshow, because the co-author with me, a gentleman named Matt Mitchell, he did the report with me, and he's a real expert on this issue. So those are some
Why
of the
is
ways.
it always kind of discouraging when you come on the show, Paul?
Because I call it like it is.
Why is it a little down?
Again, New Mexico has more potential than any other state in the country. It doesn't have to be this way. You know, we talk about another state, Mississippi. God love Mississippi.
Thank God for Mississippi.
Well, Mississippi's kicking our butts in a lot of ways.
Yes, it is. But we used to be saved.
We used to be, thank God for Mississippi. Well, Mississippi is in a more populated region of the country, but you go to Mississippi and yeah, air conditioning is great and all, but it just doesn't quite get the job done when you're dealing with 95% humidity and 95% temperatures.
Yeah.
And New Mexico's got what people want. We have unique cultures.
But they don't have the freedom, and they don't want all the sunshine in the world isn't worth it if you feel hamstrung.
If you can't get a good job, and if your kids are getting a bad education, and if you have high crime and homelessness, and if you have the challenges that we have, yes, they pile up on top of each other. No state is perfect, but no state does everything poorly, except New Mexico.
And we're going down. Okay, let's talk about one thing that we had. The film industry here was a boom, growing. Of course, we gave a huge subsidy. 0.25% of my taxes went to the huge Hollywood film industry, meaning they were favored. Other industries who came here didn't get 25% of my tax dollars, but they did.
Well, I'll give you a thumbnail history of New Mexico's film industry, because I've been doing Rio Grande Foundation for nearly 20 years, and I've been there and seen it all. But Gary Johnson actually, believe it or not, started the film industry with a very low subsidy. Bill Richardson followed him, took it up to 25 cents on the dollar. So if you came here to film, you spend $100, you got 25 back from the taxpayers of New Mexico. Susana Martinez and the budget making group in the legislature said, we can't figure out our budgeting because they come in after the budget's been drawn up and passed in the legislature, and you never know if the film industry is going to have $100 million that you owe them, or $20 million, or $10 million. It was all over the place. So Martinez put a $50 million annual cap on the payout of the film subsidies. Couldn't get below 25%, but $50 million annually. Well, that didn't eliminate the accumulation of that film subsidy. It just meant that Hollywood had to wait a year or two. So Martinez,
and it seemed to slow it down a little bit too.
She did, but then after she left office, Michelle Lujan Grisham wound up with a $300 million debt that the state had to pay to Hollywood because $50 million wasn't enough. So, you know, you can argue whether that was the right move or not, but Michelle Lujan Grisham had the oil and gas boom kind of getting started. So she wrote a check to the Hollywood filmmakers, $300 million out of the treasury of the state of New Mexico. And then she proceeded to add on to the film subsidy. Now we're up to 40 cents on the dollar, depending on where you film and in what kind of conditions you film in. But
meaning 40 cents they get back. And it's my money.
It's our money, yes.
When you say the treasury, the state treasury, well, that's what we pay
they get,
into.
Yeah,
okay.
They get that money from us.
It gets us from us.
So, wait, there's more, as they say in the ads. But that 40% is not where the subsidies end. We talked about Santa Fe Studios briefly. The taxpayers of New Mexico and Santa Fe County put up money for those studios. One of the ways they did it is through a subsidy called the Industrial Revenue Bond. That eliminates your property tax liability for 25 or so years. And this is something that's been used for other developments, some positive, some not so positive. But then the taxpayers of the state and the county put up tens of millions of dollars for Santa Fe Studios. It's now on sale, so you can get yourself a Hollywood studio based right here in New Mexico in Santa Fe, and you can still get the 40 cents on the dollar subsidy. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on the case, New Mexico, or the film industry, not just in New Mexico, is in a recession. Some would say a depression, and some say it's the new normal. Now, I'm not an expert in the Hollywood film industry, but I can tell you that New Mexico was receiving investment of $750 million annually from Hollywood. That number has shrank to about $323 million annually, and it's because the business is changing. There's international filming. Trump talked about tariffs on international films. Whether that's a good idea or not, I'm not going to get into, but I think AI may be driving it. Post-COVID kind of overspending on streaming services, whatever the case may be.
It's going down.
Hollywood is definitely
spending
not
less money,
spending as much.
And they're selling a studio, so what does all that mean?
Well, it means that New Mexico picked the wrong horse again. And that's the problem that we face, is that our politicians, predominantly on the Democrat side, some on the Republican side, like to think that they know more than the marketplace. And remember, we were talking about economic freedom. We could use those dollars as individual New Mexicans, starting our own businesses, building whatever we can, having people come here and do the same thing. Instead, we've got people in the legislature and the governor's mansion picking and choosing the industry they want, and not just providing an even playing field, but handing them literal cash up to 40 cents on the dollar for what they spend here, in an industry that ultimately is declining and potentially
in our state.
Going.
And that's it was kind of a short birth too. I mean, short lifespan. 20
yeah,
years.
I mean, 20 or so years. I mean, Hollywood's obviously been around for many, many years.
No,
New Mexico had some big movies filmed here before the Hollywood film subsidies. One of my favorites, Red Dawn, 1984, I believe, movie that filmed in Taos. Milagro Beanfield War, Robert Redford. Those are all preceding the subsidies, which came along later on.
With Mission, and I really went. You had the Rio Grande Foundation, Missing in Action with Chuck Norris, and 2004 Man of Fire with Denzel Washington, and We the Millers was filmed.
Yeah,
that was a comedy.
We're the Millers. Yeah, there's been a fair
number of films, but you're saying we gave them all this industrial revenue bonds and all of these things, and now they're declining, and some are leaving.
Yeah, well, when you're handing them 40 cents on the dollar, you cannot make money in that environment. You know, we can argue and advocate and talk about, well, New Mexico should attract X, Y, and Z industry, and maybe that would imply eliminating some tax that they pay or something. We got intel in Rio Rancho in part through the industrial revenue bonds, but the difference is that Intel's still going. It's still there, and they're having their ups and they're having their downs at Intel, but they have now eliminated that industrial revenue bond. They're now paying property taxes. They're now employing people. And so you can argue, and it's to me, it's second best from having good, low taxes, low regulations, and bringing growth through those policies.
Keep it fair for everybody.
Hollywood is so mobile. They can pick up and move anytime a show changes or anytime they're done finished with the movie. You're not going to keep them here. They're going to come wherever the subsidy and the lowest cost of production is for
and we still gave it to them, they're still leaving.
Yeah, exactly.
What about the voting? And we have just a couple of minutes left.
Sure.
So we have to talk about the big, beautiful bill, too, the automatic voter registration.
In 2023, the legislature passed, the governor signed automatic voter registration in New Mexico. That means that when you get a driver's license or you renew your driver's license or you get SNAP or Medicaid benefits, whatever it may be, pretty much any interaction with the state of New Mexico, they're going to automatically sign you up as a voter. Now, that sounds fine and dandy.
Great. It sounds great to have people voting, but I know a lot of people who are here in the state illegally all have driver's licenses.
Yeah, and I'm not going to get into that. I will get into the fact that if you have a name that maybe you change it, so it could be Marty or Martin, for example. Well, if you're both, or you register on your driver's license as Marty, but you're currently registered to vote as Martin, then you wind up with voting potentially multiple voting records.
Because it's automatic.
And yeah, there's no easy opt-out. So yeah, I think we're going to see a even further diminution of the accuracy of our voter rolls in the state of New Mexico, which of course can lay the groundwork for voting fraud and all kinds of issues with that. So,
do people even realize that they're being registered? I mean, it's automatic.
You essentially have to fill out a form, or you have. I talked to somebody who had gone through this process. It just took effect at the beginning of July 2025. So it's a relatively new process, and this is a gentleman with multiple kind of name identifications.
You don't want to discuss it, but we do know there's a lot of people here who aren't New Mexican citizens who have driver's licenses.
That can be a part of the problem as well. So it's not, I don't have good solid numbers to say how many of them are doing that, yeah.
What about our, many of us have to go to the doctor.
Right.
Since President Trump signed the big, beautiful bill that he called the big, beautiful bill.
Yeah.
The impacts on Medicaid. He's requiring people to work, able-bodied people to work before they get the Medicaid.
Yeah, our political leadership, Michelle Lujan Grisham, the governor, and our congressional delegation are universally, oh, woe is us, this is going to be a tragedy. And New Mexico has gone way too dependent on the Medicaid system. Medicaid is one of the reasons for our medical provider shortage, because Medicaid doesn't pay the doctors, reimbursing them at a high enough rate. This big, beautiful bill did not slash and cut Medicaid. It simply reduced the trajectory of growth from something like 4.7% annually to about 2.3% annually.
So it did not
New Mexico is gaming the system with provider taxes, putting a tax on providers, then gaining access to more Medicaid money, federal Medicaid money, because they pay 75 cents of the dollar that comes into New Mexico. And so there was an effort in New Mexico, and it was widely recognized. We are trying to bring money in from Washington, D.C. It's not about health care and health improvement. And it's a very questionable situation as to whether Medicaid actually improves people's health outcomes. And studies have shown right here in New Mexico that the impact of all of this new Medicaid spending has not
improved our health
on health care.
So is it good or bad what President Trump has done for New Mexico?
On the big, beautiful bill, on the whole, it's a positive. What it's doing for Medicaid and reforming it is actually one of the best aspects, even though it is the aspect that's going to be criticized the most by our political leadership.
Because people don't understand it. They keep saying you cut it, but we're only cutting the the growth.
Yeah, and we have the money. We have the oil and gas money. We have $61 billion in our sovereign wealth funds. If we are concerned, if our politicians are concerned about the impact of that bill, we have the money to spend, to use. I would have preferred to do diversification of our economy, bring people out of poverty. New Mexico's politicians, though, can use that money to fill in the gaps where necessary. And
just use it as a literal Band-Aid.
Exactly, a literal Band-Aid.
Those who people need a Band-Aid and can't get it maybe anymore from the federal government can get it from the oil and gas industry.
But I want this bill and this legislation at the federal level, the big beautiful bill, to push more people to get jobs, to get involved and engaged in the workforce, to not stand on the sidelines. We know we have a very low workforce participation rate. We have a lot of issues that come out of people not working, and New Mexico can and should do more to encourage those people to work, to not be on government benefits, and that would help all of us in New Mexico.
And give them some self-esteem,
absolutely,
self-respect for themselves and their family.
I think it's impactful in the crime area. It's impactful in family formation and people being productive, engaged citizens. Because once you start seeing the FICA taxes and the money coming out of your check, you start to say, hey, I think I should have some input on this. Maybe I'll get out to vote. Maybe I'll do something here to change the trajectory of this situation.
Paul, thank you so much for all that you do at the Rio Grande Foundation. Quite a bit. You educated us again, once again, about our failing economic freedom. We're losing that. That's just a big, huge eye-opener. When we were thinking things are getting better, studies show, statistics and numbers show we're getting worse since 1981, the only state in the nation who's declining in economic freedom. Pretty shocking. Pretty disappointing as well.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you again. Best of luck to you and your family and to the Rio Grande Foundation. And it's easy to go there, riograndefoundation.org, to find out more information that we touched upon. Thanks for this station bringing you Issues and Answers. I'm Diane Kinderwater. Make it a great week. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Issues and Answers with your host, Diane Kinderwater, is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. To comment on today's program, email us at info@kchftv.org or call us at 505-345-1991. Join us again for Issues and Answers with Diane Kinderwater.